Welcome, everybody. We're doing a little special Sunday that we do. This is episode number 3 of the Alien UFO Forum, and we got the founder, 369, and we got Perry Banana. We're doing something special today. We are going to actually we're actually live on Twitter via Spaces calls. So if you have any kind of questions, it will be a very easy process for everybody to jump on to that space. We're just trying to try some things out, and we'll see how exactly everything comes into fruition. So if you, let's see, well, before that, how's everybody doing on this Sunday?
I'm doing well. And we should be streaming on my channel too.
Yeah, we are streaming on yours.
You have mine pulled up and I can't find it. No, I can. I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
How's TG Zen doing? He's muted.
What's up, guys? Yeah, thanks for hosting it. And yeah, to everyone, we're obviously trying something new with also doing this on Twitter Spaces. So anyone can just come up and chat without having to delegate maybe a whole hour to this. If they just want to come in for 5 minutes here or there, you know, you're welcome to just request in the Twitter Spaces and join the chat, or just type into the chat on YouTube as normal.
So we have potentially, I think, 4 different audiences: Coach's channel, mine, and then a Twitter space. 3.
Yeah, we'll see how all these come. I think it's going to be working, but it's been a while since I hosted a Twitter space, so it's like people are probably like, "Oh, well, Coach is hosting a Twitter space," but it's always good practice.
Mm-hmm. And I've got the monthly data too. Whenever you're ready for that, we can just spend 10 minutes on it. I can go over it real quick.
Yeah, let's go over that data here. Present the your screen if you want to showcase it for everybody on YouTube.
Okay.
And then we can talk about it.
Find it. Yeah, give me a second and I will think that should work.
Perfect.
Okay, you got it. Cool.
All
right. So that's not the tab I wanted to look at, but I'll find it. So I'll just narrate. I got this data this morning, and I'm going to preface this by saying that, you know, the numbers that we're seeing, especially when you get to price in this next tab, prices, volumes, and market caps, this token is paired heavily with Pulse. It's going to go, and it goes up and down with Pulse, and we're going to see that. So some of the numbers are negative, but that's not negative in and of just because of pTG itself. It's because of the ecosystem and the liquidity pairing. So we've been doing this monthly since February. We were doing it weekly in February, but now monthly. So we gained 18 stakers, 185 holders. We lost 67 Telegram members, probably because somebody was going in there and cleaning out bots and scammers.
Yep, that was me.
But you know what it is? That was the first negative month. So next month we'll be up. I mean, it's just all of these numbers fluctuate, and you can see that. Twitter, we gained 23. There was a big influx last month because of the loss of this. I mean, the launch of UFO. I didn't get the minimum eligibility minimum because what it was showing this morning was like 15, or it was like 15 million. I was like, that ain't right. I even refreshed the screen, but that you can see the eligibility minimum to submit DAO proposals has been coming down just about every month. So that's cool for people that want to be able to submit proposals. YouTube videos. Now this is Hex Explained video that everybody should have bookmarked so you can send it to your friends. The 5 minute, it was actually 6 minutes. And it has now over 1,000. I can't see how many because it just says 1K. but we gained, almost probably 200 views of that video in 1 month. You have any comments on these guys, on these fields?
No, it's looking good.
Yeah, we did put, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but we did put the Hexplain video on the front of the pTGC website. So for new, it's probably not going to increase like the views too much, but I think for maybe any new people coming to pTGC, if the first place they find, or one of the first places they find is the website, obviously that's a great place for them to start, is that Hex Explain video. It's right there on the front.
Yep. And I am going through this quickly. If it sounds like I'm rushing, it's because I'm trying to get through this so we can get on to whatever else is on the agenda. Prices, volume, and market caps is the next tab. And now you see we've been in a downward trend for 4 months. Well, April, May, and all of June, 3 months. Am I concerned? Absolutely not. Are any of you guys?
Nope. Because Pulse has been going down for the last 4 months.
Yep. And you can see the difference there. And then the 7-day volume, and that would be on the pTGC Pulse pair. It would, it was 200,000 the last time I checked, the last time we did this, and went down to 74,000. Again, I'm not concerned. The market cap, yep, it's going to decrease with the price, obviously. Liquidity decreased a little bit by 69,000. Transactions, I just like to try. I like to see transactions because that's where our yield comes from. Transfers and Dow funds. And here you go. So the price of Pulse has been coming down for 4 months as well. So that's where we're seeing our sideways chopping kind of movement there. Any comments or questions on this data?
Yeah, just I guess we can just point out that obviously when Pulse Chain is trending down for a 4-month period, the sediment on the blockchain gets a little bit slower, and people tend to not look at altcoins on that blockchain or look for new tokens to get in on that blockchain. People usually tend to just hold their gas, the gas token, which is Pulse Chain, or their main tickers like PulseX, and wait for the sediment and the market to shift back up, because people have a hard time getting rid of their Pulse Chain at a loss. If you're going to go into an altcoin, most people tend to do that when it's in a positive dollar amount, so they feel like they're making a positive trade instead of at a negative amount.
Yep. And I think, I posted something on Twitter early on last week. It was a market cycle thing going back, an image, market cycles going back several years, showing how there's always kind of a pullback in June. And then July rallies up a little bit. So, we might have a positive month in July, and I'm hopeful that we will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think someone was saying that there's never been a July in history after the halving that's been a red month.
There you go. That was it.
Well, like looking back in 2023, June was a down month for Bitcoin, and then July was kind of like sideways, and then the price didn't start going up until like the beginning of September. But this is a new year with none of the ETFs that are out or that came out for Bitcoin, and then ETH ETF is going to be coming out any week now, and then also what's the chick's name? Kathy Woods put in for a Solana ETF. So
wow,
it's just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm. Here's the history of pTGC price going back to the beginning, October 2023, and the number of X's that it has done. Now the fractions are obviously negative, or fractions of an X. But still, we're averaging 2.88 X's per month. And then this just for fun, like if you forecasted from, well, I didn't update this, from June through September at 2.88, the price would be at 0.0137 by September, which would be pretty sweet. But yeah, that's just for fun, speculation.
Mm-hmm. And then yesterday I was listening in. I didn't join, unfortunately, with the Twitter space, but yeah, I remember you guys talking about there's only 5.6% of the supply of pTGC in the Pulse liquidity pool. And the last time we were at all-time highs, we were at the same kind of like percentages, or we were probably at like about 5.2, 5.4 last time. But since we've had the 4 months of downturn and adding more liquidity to the trifecta of the 40 plus liquidity pools that we actually have. And then also, I think the percentage of burnt is about 6%. So the next time we get to the place where we get back to all-time highs, that percentages of in that liquidity pool to buy off the market of pTGC is going to be very, very small. So that percentage my guess is going to be between 2.3 to about 1.7% in that liquidity pool going back to all-time highs. And of course, it's going to depend on like the human interactions and stuff like that. But that is the differences between like pTGC and other going forward. So
I have two more tabs I want to show you guys.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so you were talking about the LP liquidity. Well, here we have it. 1st of June, 30th of June. Thanks to Shaka for giving me the idea to get this information, because it's interesting. So you'll see the numbers decrease or increase. It's just because of the pairing, and maybe you guys can talk more wisdom about this, but I think it's an interesting historical, snapshot to see where we are. And then the total UFO LP'd is right down here. So we went from 27.57 to 28.66. I think perhaps as people learn how to LP their UFO, but let's hear what you guys have to say about this data. Coach? DG's in?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I don't see your guys' faces anymore.
There's our faces. Now
Okay.
our faces are gone.
I was like,
There we
did I drop off or something?
Our faces are here. Our faces are up. Just kidding.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only reason I even go on these streams, to see your guys' faces. So I appreciate if you kept them up. So obviously how like liquidity pools work is when the price of UFO goes down, there becomes more UFO in that liquidity pool. That's one reason why more UFO could be in that liquidity pool, but then also more UFO could be in the liquidity pool by people adding liquidity to the liquidity pool as well. Judging on the price, since we're not really down from last month with UFO, to me, it just is telling me that people are using UFO's DAP as it should be used, by adding additional liquidity with the RH blue chips and earning passive PLS with that.
There you go. All right, last tab. This is a 1,000 UFO test. 1,000. It's actually 2 million, because what I did is I have in one wallet, I have 1 million UFO liquid and 1 million UFO LP'd. And the liquid UFO has garnered 6,394 UFO, valued at 0.016 in UFO. And then the LP'd UFO has garnered 945 PLS at a value of 0.04. And if you factor that out annually, you can see that like the LP'd UFO is earning about almost 3 times more as the UFO that's only earning, reflections for sitting in the wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that makes sense considering it's got 3% of the fee instead of the reflections only gets 1%. So
Yeah.
it ultimately should be around 3% or 3 times more.
Yeah. So, well, that's it for the data, and that was really quick.
Well, the data can fly by really easily sometimes, but it's very important. It's very important to actually get the bigger picture.
It's important to see, where we are, where we came from, where we are. We don't know where we're going. At the beginning of June, we didn't know where this thing was going, but now we've got that. We have the data. We have the snapshot. So, yeah, I think it's important. And in 6 months, I mean, when Pulse starts ripping, whenever that happens, we can look back and really see where we came from. You know what I mean?
Well, like looking at the 6 months prediction, it's sounding like it's going to be about 18% of pTGC burn off the market with $1.3 million of valuation. So about 59.8 billion pTGC bought and burnt off the market just by the data from the last 2 months. So that's going to be another thing, just like another feather in our cap that people just don't outlook anything. This is the same kind of concept with Hex. So everybody on Pulse Chain here, all the hexagons and all that kind of stuff, if you understand the concept behind, and you never know, maybe with our with our stakers, we've gained 49 more stakers in the last couple days. So I think it was on Tuesday, the last time I took a look at the stakers, and now we have 1,387 stakers. So if that number doubles in the circulating where is it? Stake supply. We're at 211 billion pTGC actually staked right now. So if that number goes up 30 billion 30 billion adding to it, it's just going to add to the consensus of that percentage of that or how much of pTGC is in the open market in those liquidity pools. So it's just going to have a massive supply shock moving forward. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool to watch. Nobody talks about that. But,
What I'd like to hear is TG Zen explain again what you did on the Twitter Spaces yesterday about the unexpected surprise of the Pulse X. The Pulse X, because somebody bought an $81,000 worth of PDI on Friday, and then the bots, the Pulse X bots or something like that, did something that we didn't even expect. So I'd like to hear TG Zen explain that.
Yeah, so I've been running obviously numbers since before pTGC, before UFO, about what this can do on only relying on arbitrage bots and the mechanics backing the protocol with no human interaction. Obviously, human interaction amplifies the system greatly, beyond ridiculous numbers as we get human interaction, but I also like to build things to where it doesn't require human interaction, because interaction isn't always a for sure. There's some days that just, it's not good sediment. So if we can depend on other things that are more mechanically based and LP pool based, it makes it so the product can withstand the longevity of time, which ultimately that's why most products fail, is because volume slows down and no longer humans want to interact because they get scared, and then they either sell or just don't even interact anymore, which us creating this liquidity web makes it so that never slows down. Some days are large and some days are small, and it's mainly due just as the whole entire market moves up and down, we have shifts with our liquidity web, and then when there's shifts, there becomes arbitrage opportunity, and we've been noticing the arbitrage bots in our pools, and that's obviously what we're capitalizing on. majority of the time, which does buy and burns and LP ads and rewards to the holders. But more recently, there was, and because I know there was some updates on PulseX, so I don't know if this update is using other liquidity pools more, but let's say it's not even because of that. Maybe it's just because our liquidity pools are actually gaining in size over time. So now we become more usable by the PulseX router. But the facts are, someone came in with an $80,000 buy into PDI with PLS. And when you're doing $80,000 buy, and Richard Hart actually recently was talking about this in tweets, is someone smart would spread that buy out between multiple liquidity pools. They wouldn't put the whole amount into one pool because they would just run the price up on themselves. So it's smart to put your money into different liquidity pools. And what PulseX has built into it is the auto router. And due to UFO's liquidity pool with PDI being so large, I don't know if either of you have your computer in front of them, but it's like 350,000, I think, or maybe 250,000, 300, I don't know, something decently large. I would have to dig down the rabbit hole of PDI, but I would definitely say we're maybe in the top 10 of liquidity pools with PDI, with on every token on Pulse Chain. So naturally, what that router did is it saw that it could push some of the funds through our liquidity web. And when they push the funds through our liquidity web, they're actually getting the user a better price on their purchase. So we have like this specific utility that we're now offering to the PulseX router because we're providing so much liquidity with these blue chips. So the PulseX router decided to take $15,000 of that $80,000 buy. So obviously the other 65,000 went to other pools or the main pool, but it took $15,000 and routed it through our system. So when it routed it through our system, it had to take the PLS and buy UFO because the user had PLS. When it bought UFO, it obviously paid the 6% fee. Intentions were never to buy UFO. So then the router had to then sell that UFO for PDI because that's what the end result was, what that user wanted. So it had to pay the 6% fee again, totaling $30,000 in volume for UFO off of someone not even interacting with UFO, but the PulseX router utilizing one of our main utilities, which is strong liquidity. So we got a free 30K in volume on our ecosystem that obviously pays a 6% on that volume. But then because of that huge market buy and then market sell, it created the R bots in all of our other liquidity pools to then get activated, because that's what our main utility is when there's volatility in the market, our liquidity webs shift and then the R bots fix it. So naturally the R bots had to start fixing prices automatically. So that 30K of volume actually within like 15 seconds or 15 minutes, turned into 40K of volume within a 15-minute period. And this wasn't even because of a market movement thing like we've normally been factoring in. It was solely just because the PulseX router is now utilizing our liquidity pools because of them being of decent size. So what that tells me is if we keep growing these sizes of these liquidity pools, if we keep providing LP with UFO, with pTGC, we're actually going to get used more and more and more with these large purchases. Obviously, these large purchases aren't happening a ton right now because PulseX just isn't in a good setup, or Pulse isn't at a good place. But I believe once Pulse Chain starts running up, large amounts of money will be pushed into our Pulse Chain ecosystem, which then the PulseX auto router will then look at the best LP pools to put that purchase through. And as a big player in LP and being some of the largest LP pools with PulseX, like honestly, I bet you if you really dug down the rabbit hole of them all, we're probably in the top 20 at least for every single RH blue chip. So on PulseX, maybe there's some on other dexes and stuff like that, but on PulseX, we probably are in the top 20 for all of these blue chips, and our goal should actually be to get to the top 10 with all the blue chips, because the higher we get and the larger liquidity we get with the blue chips, the more the auto router is going to use our liquidity, which obviously just helps our ecosystem more and more and more. I think if you even look at our eHex, besides the hex-to-hex pair on PulseX, I think we're the largest liquidity pool with eHex. So if eHex ever gets decent volume on Pulse Chain, we should get a lot of that free volume just because of our large pairing with eHex, which is our main utility just getting put to work and showing what it can really do for our holders and for our token itself. Because every time this happens, and as we all step up and add this liquidity due to our fee system, it just buys and burns our supply and buys and burns pTGC supply at the same time, not only rewarding people for their contribution to the system, but so the contribution to the system actually rewards themselves, which is, like, in my opinion, like a golden situation. Like, you usually don't get situations where the ecosystem gets rewarded, but then the user supporting the ecosystem also gets rewarded. It's usually one or the other, but in this case, it's a win-win. And then also another win, because pTGC gets some of that volume too, so the pTGC token itself also gets rewarded, which is super cool. But yeah, when I was factoring in volume numbers, I've been running numbers as Pulse Chain does a 5x, 10x, 100x, what this really will do for our ecosystem, because our liquidity pools will grow in size, which will make it so our bots will have to trade more money to fix the pools, and then in turn, obviously, buy and burn and pay rewards faster. But with these new findings of the PulseX routing large purchases through us, this brings in a whole nother metric that we never factored in to volume, buy and burn, etc., that might increase this to even greater numbers than we previously thought. And obviously, we all know the numbers that I've ran. If Pulse Chain actually gets adoption, are pretty crazy when you think of how small of a cup UFO and pTGC are as far as what kind of X's they can do just off of Pulse Chain running up. Like, ours are amplified just greatly, and now we're learning that there's even more stuff that can amplify that, which is just great news.
Well, like, going back to like something that we didn't take into account, real quick, let me answer a question. Depends on what you are trading. Okay, Yield Farm Inc. It depends on what you're trading your ink for. If you're trading it for a UFO or pTGC, you're going to have to increase your slippage to about 5.5 for pTGC, and then about 6.5 for UFO. So with that, but we saw this earlier on a little bit when there's some transactions that were going through Teddy Bear, and Snowflake was one of the individuals that kind of pointed that out, just because we had before UFO, of course, but pointed that out to see or show, like, once there's big buys that are going through different kind of liquidity pools, especially if you do the auto router and you just find the best transaction. So that's something else that I've seen in the past, which is different than any other protocols at the end of the day. Well, but what else is going on here on Pulse Chain? I don't think there's that much exciting stuff going on. We're just waiting. We're waiting here for Ethereum to go up.
I made an interesting correlation between the Twitter space that we did yesterday and the price. I learned something way back when RH would stream regularly, or every now and again. Remember when he would drop on Twitter and on Telegram? He's like, "Do you guys think I should stream?" And everybody's like, "Yes." Remember when he used to do that?
Mhm.
Well, I noticed that the price would always just kind of tick up like immediately, the hex price.
Mhm.
So I went and looked at the chart this morning from yesterday when we were streaming, and sure enough, I mean, it was ticking up. Now, to be fair, it was ticking up before we even jumped on the Twitter space, but that it was it's interesting that, when we produce content, people get they get more confidence in the product. I think that's where I'm going with that, and they buy. It's almost like it's human nature to. I mean, we're all excited about this new product, and we buy some, and then if we don't stay engaged in the community, and then it just sitting, and we see it over there sitting in our wallet, something we were once all excited about, we lose that excitement, and then we might be inclined to swap it out for something else.
Mhm.
But if we stay engaged, and people need to have something to stay engaged with, right? Which is why we're producing this content right now, to elevate people's confidence. Because I'm highly confident. I'm telling you what, I'm extremely bullish in pTGC and UFO. I'm excited for the future, and Pulse Chain. I listen to content a lot. It keeps me looped in, man.
Let's see what else is going on. Let's see. Let me just pull up the pulse chart. Let's see where we possibly might be heading, just for kicks. Looking at the pulse chart.
Coach, do you have anyone listening in on Twitter, or can you see that?
There's only 2 people.
Only 2 people.
How many people are viewing on your YouTube?
17. So I think going forward, the Twitter space, we'll just do the regular, just have the branched out with the broadcast, because we get more eyeballs the other way, unless we just keep on consistently doing this and people are aware of it.
Yeah, it definitely would probably help giving people a warning. You know what I mean? Like, hey, there will be a Twitter space at this time. It's just also going to be mixed in with a live stream.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How much heads up do we give people? I'm guilty of not giving enough heads up myself. But there are 5 people watching on my YouTube, and you're probably one of them.
Who is this big guy? Gosh, how much did that go up? 94% in one candle. Interesting. I don't know what they're doing though. Do you see that anywhere else? Oh, over here. Let's see. Let's look at the 4 hours. Yeah, this volume is. I wonder what's going to happen once all this volume starts trickling up. Yeah, like this volume is sad to look at right now, unfortunately. I hate being this, but like looking at that and then comparing it to like Solana having over like, I don't know, I think it almost got to $2 billion dollars volume in 24 hours one of the times. But it's going to happen here. It's going to happen sooner or later. We just need more builders. We need more more memes, more everything basically over here. And enough shit talking. It's like it's not helping us anything. At least the aliens don't do too much shit talking. It's like the honey badger's gone. It's ran away.
Are you not using that honey badger anymore?
No. Shaka told me to let it loose in the wild. So now I'm the happy panda. Happy panda.
Oh, yes. Every month, just change it, or every quarter.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe starting in August, September, maybe I'll be like the bald eagle. Green candles here on Pulse Chain, which is going to be kind of cool. Let's see. Some of the other things going on. We have a proposal coming out in 2 days. So on Tuesday, looks like we have the votes for it. Let me see if we do. I think we do. We should. Yep, we have the votes for it. That's 97 million polls coming out. And I wonder what we're going to do. Add it to liquidity. Maybe we
Is
just
there
do.
a proposal for that?
Yeah, there's a proposal coming out on the 2nd around 8:40 p.m. And then we have about 42 million polls available funds for the DAO. We've been letting it rise up a little bit more, and we're not really too worried about it. So,
Okay. Do you want to share your screen and talk about that proposal?
yeah.
I think that'd be interesting for the audience. I know I don't look at those as often as I should.
Yeah, so here is the proposal, and we've been keeping track of the DAO, making sure that they go to the OA or another wallet, but send to the OA for buy and LP. So that's the instruction for this thing right here is the funds request 97,302,9763. This is a wallet that it's come from, and then here are the votes, and people are voting for it, so it's pretty cool. And then also, if you wanted to make a comment, you can be like, let's add LP to Pulse X, which we have been doing Pulse X or Inc. Lately.
Okay. And where's the pulse going for this LP ad?
I don't know. We don't know yet. Well,
Okay. Is that going to require another DAO proposal to decide that?
Usually, honestly, it kind of just goes based on where we feel like we need some more liquidity added. So like PulseX was about, give or take, about $10,000 less than this about a month and a half ago. The ink was only at about 12,000 in that ink pool. So we added to that. But usually like I had one of my streams in the morning, I was like, all right, guys, where should we add more liquidity to? So, and then, so that happened last time, but usually, sometimes like if we have somebody makes a proposal, like add liquidity between just an example, Solid X or something like that. And then of course, if it got, voted on, then of course, depending on if it went through or not, then that will be where we add that liquidity pool boards. So,
And just so people know, anybody that is in the top 100 stakers can submit a proposal. But any stakers, if you have pTGC staked, you can vote on the proposals. And it's just a simple wallet transaction. You pay your pulse, you vote yes, no. You can make a comment like Coach just said, and then you can cast your vote, which is one of the reasons I love being in a DAO. I've voted a couple of times. I don't do it as much as I should, but like how often, if I wanted to keep up on the DAO proposals, how often should I check to see if there are new ones?
Right now, probably once or twice a week, because that's how the influx of the polls has been coming into the DAO. And like,
Really, you should only have to look once a week because a proposal is a week long.
True. Yep.
So if you just go on once a week and kind of just look through if there's one proposal or multiple proposals, you know what I mean? You don't need to really look more than that.
I'm going to try to make it a habit to do that every Sunday. If I don't pick a day, it doesn't happen. But are we looking at adding any other pairs? Like for pTGC or UFO?
So in the recent days or months, it seems like every project that we've paired with that has had good sentiment, good community on Pulse Chain has taken a huge turn back to where what we've put into that has not really been worth it as far as like the volume and what the current liquidity has been worth. Mainly the sub projects that have been successful have been pDi, Atropa, and Teddy Bear over the long term. Everything else has ultimately kind of died off, even if I still hope that they come back to life. So it's actually been a little bit more risky than we'd hoped for on Pulse Chain with, putting liquidity with alt tokens and stuff like that, which is kind of, I guess that's what comes with it. It's a little bit more risky, but what we've found is at these levels of Pulse Chain being half the sack rate, Inc. being at like $2 or whatever it's at, PulseX being 4 times below sack rate or whatever, quarter of sack rate. It's probably our best, in our best community's interest to latch on to as much of those tokens at these levels as possible, because I feel that a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, we're going to wish we put our economic energy towards that. And I think our community feels the same way, everyone I talk to. And down the road, we can always add to different altcoins as new altcoins come onto Pulse Chain and, give their good ideas. But passing up on RH tickers and blue chips of Pulse Chain at these levels, I think would just be bad decisions. Unless like a really solid project came up in front of us really early. But
are we eyeballing any new projects?
I try to not really eyeball anything. I'm not. It's just, I think this is kind of one of the reasons why I even started working on my own projects is people start to tell you, what you want to hear about their project, but I actually lack to see any facts ever come to fruition. Like, it just always seems like a thing where they overpromise and underperform. And at a certain point, I just think we'd be better off. And obviously, it's a DAO, so my opinion isn't the only opinion that matters. But I think we're better off at these levels just investing in the blockchain and the blockchain sub tokens that we're riding on, because ultimately, if the Pulse Chain, if PulseX, if Inc., if these tokens aren't successful, most every other thing on this blockchain will not be successful. Just the truth of it. So, and then as far as like other forms, like we're probably better off just if we're looking at getting into low market cap altcoins, we might as well just buy and burn our own project, because in my opinion, pTGC and UFO are the top altcoins, if not the top. But it's not that I'm saying that we're the top. It doesn't matter to me if we're the top. There's also other really, really good projects. But the thing I like about pTGC and UFO that a lot of these other products don't have, or maybe they do have and I just don't know about, is they have a utility behind them that needs no human interaction. So it just makes sense for us to, instead of speculating in other people's altcoins where I feel like they have less of a use case than us, it's better for us just to speculate in our own ecosystem, or the ecosystem that we're built on top of, which is Pulse Chain and RH tickers at these levels. Like, down the road, a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, obviously this sentiment can be very, very different. 10 years from now, it's going to be a whole different place. And we might be looking at fresh projects that are coming out that have legitimate projects and crazy use cases and stuff like that to build liquidity pools with to add to our web. But at Pulse Chain levels at this level and UFO levels at this level and pTGC levels at this, or pTGC at this level, I think for me and a couple of our other community members, it makes the most sense for us to be investing in ourselves, which obviously buying and burning, and also investing in the core assets of the blockchain and making those as big as possible. Because what we just saw with that that $80,000 transaction is these big blue chips of Pulse Chain are the only things at this time that are going to get large transactions like that. No one's throwing 80K at a speculative token on Pulse Chain. They don't even have enough liquidity to do that. But so we're tapping into all these different fields that we wouldn't get to tap into with smaller liquidity pools. And the bigger we can make them at these levels, when Pulse Chain starts to run up, like for an example, like right now UFO has, I think, $1.6 million in liquidity. And let's say in general, the Pulse Chain ecosystem does a 4x. That's like old all-time highs. Not too hard to do. But our liquidity web would be sitting at a $6 million, would be sitting at roughly $6 million, which will make it so we will be making a lot more money off of that liquidity web. And also we will have large liquidity pools with the RH tokens, and we yet to even know how those liquidity pools are going to look. Like right now, a lot of the RH tokens, their main liquidity pools have like $20 million. We don't know if when these pools go up, if RH is going to keep these liquidity pools this large, if he's going to let them run bigger, if he's going to keep sucking them down so they stay at roughly this number. We don't know what he's going to do, but let's like give a scenario right now. What if he keeps them around the 20 million mark because he wants these tokens easy to pump? Well, right now we have like let's say when we get to a $5,000 pool with Pulse. Well, if Pulse Chain did a 40x, our liquidity pool should be roughly at $20 million as well, because we would get a 40x on 500,000, which would be $20 million. So if RH kept his liquidity pool at 20 million as well, I don't know if he will. He maybe lets it run up 40x, but if he wants to keep it small and easy to pump, he might keep it around that 20 mil. Well, now we would have a $20 million liquidity pool with Pulse, just like the Pulse liquidity pool does. So naturally, the auto router would then start pushing a lot of the transactions through our liquidity pools just from normal everyday people wanting to get in and out of Pulse Chain, or and this goes for Pulse X and all the other tokens as well too. So the more we can build right now, the stronger we will be in the future. It's kind of like, a normal construction project. The better foundation, the bigger foundation, the stronger foundation you can build, the bigger building you can build, the higher skyscraper you can build. And even though we're 10 months old, in the grand scheme of things, this is a forever long project. We are planning on being here as long as Pulse Chain. We are still in foundation phases, especially at RH tickers being at below SAC rate.
Mm-hmm. That's just mind-boggling to think that, this system practically operates without any human interaction. Someone else buying another token has a ripple effect in pTGC and UFO with a direct, benefit to our wallets. And we don't have to do anything. Almost literally, it's like artificial intelligence, those bots just doing so much work.
Yeah.
Here, let me.
And obviously human interaction amplifies that. And that's another goal we have here, but it's good to have a base layer that is actually not dependent on emotional humans and be only dependent on bots. Like, look at it where our world's going. Like, big businesses are pushing out human employees for bot employees. Why? Because there's no emotion, there's no brakes. They just don't stop. You know, it's AI, that's robots in manufacturing. It's just an easier thing to rely on. And it would just make sense for anyone building a token. Why are we trying to rely on humans to buy? We should rely on arbitrage bots to buy or Pulse-X auto routers to buy. Not only, like, we want human interaction too, but actually human interaction will naturally come. Our utility is so strong, and what we have as a base layer is creating our price to go up over the long term. Then human interaction just follows that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me just add just some more FOMO to the fire. So, like, talking about, like, human interaction. So when Pulse does start moving up in the direction that we all feel like it's going to go up and to the right. But going back to pTGC's all-time high is literally basically, give or take, let's just say a 3x from here. So if we actually take a look now at these liquidity pools, so 3x with Pulse would make this liquidity pool about $900 to $1 million. With DAI, it's going to be about 300 to 500,000. Same thing with Teddy Bear. With like Hex, or I think this is pHex, this is going to be 90K. This is going to be also about 90K. With TSFI, it's going to be about 60K. But that floor percentage is rising the whole ecosystem up without even adding to, like, the thought process that another human has to buy. The liquidity pools will just help push the price up, and that's in equivalence with Hart's law coming into play. So the same kind of thing with, like, UFO. So if, let's just say pTGC does do that 3x, UFO will also mimic the same kind of thing. So let's just say it just does go up 3x. So this Pulse pair is going to be about 1 million, 1.2 to 1.3 million in that liquidity pool. I'm trying to do fast math in my head.
750,000.
Yeah, 750. Give or take another $600 to $700,000 right there. Same thing with Ink, Hex. But we also are effectively helping out the whole Pulse chain ecosystem with helping raise the liquidity pools with the RH tickers, and looking at it in a net positive for the Pulse chain ecosystem and for all the Pulsicans and Hexicans out there. pTGC will be one of the biggest contributors to the whole ecosystem of itself. So it's going to be kind of cool to watch and see. And that's, like, another reason why we're focused on the RH tickers like Pulse X, Ink, and Pulse to help strengthen that floor level. And going back to, like, have we been looking at other altcoins? Honestly, there's been about 2 handful of different projects coming out, DMing myself or TG Zen about, like, adding liquidity with them. And, like, some of the people have, like, I'm just going to give out, I'm not going to say the names, but I'll give you examples. Like, some of these projects in their OA wallet already have 90% of the supply or 99% of the supply to give out to us or something like that. So that price and then we have to actually go out and buy more pTGC from our DAO, and that's how we actually get more allocation, because the OA didn't keep, like, a portion of the supply at the beginning. Basically, everything went everything went. Besides the airdrops and stuff, everything went into the liquidity pool. So we have to buy that off the market. So if we are buying 10,000, let's just say hypothetically, we bought $10,000 of pTGC off the market, and another project sent us over $10,000 worth of those tokens. The price value of dollars is not a significant amount to that like alt token, which the OA had the supply already. So it's not like a net negative, but it would. What we've noticed is like more and more people are just like, oh, pTGC is the real deal. Their mechanics are operating, and they're hoping and crossing their fingers, trying to get a certain supply amount to like offer it. You know what I mean? So, but we also have been seeing people actually just buying pTGC off the market and adding a certain amount of liquidity to their project, just help out. It's like they know if they like grab onto it now, in the future, it's going to be a net positive for them. If that makes sense. Here is a question. What is the forum for the calculating the value of liquidity pools as the market cap goes up? Doesn't it seem to be a linear relationship? Yeah. So the relationship between the liquidity pool. So like when I say like pTGC goes up at 3x, if Pulse goes up at 2x, we have to actually add that to the consideration. So that's why I always talk about like liquidity pools. If it goes up 3x from 200,000, and I say it's going to be roughly 600 to about 650,000, that's because of the alternative liquidity pool that we're tied to. So that is a good question right there. I think I answered that correctly. Yeah. One of my clients asked me this question the other day. It's kind of funny. TG Zen, you want to add to what I was talking about, or?
One second. I'm putting my son in the car seat. He's crying.
Oh, you're chilling, bro.
I'll touch on it in like a minute if you want to.
Well, Banana, what do you say about that?
I'm flattered that you would ask, but I'm not going to. I do have a comment, and that is, you know what we should do either on the Saturday Twitter space, or probably preferably in a forum like this on the Roundtable, is to discuss the DAO proposals. I mean, every week it gets it in front of everybody, perhaps garner some more engagement, and then people can stay in the loop of what's going on, you know, behind kind of behind the scenes. But let's bring that behind scenes to the foreground a little bit, because we're a DAO. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And we're meeting once a week, and the DAO proposals, TG Zen says, are best to look at once a week. So, hey, man, that's a match. Let's do it.
Yeah. Like I try to come out and showcase the proposals when I can, or not when I can, but like when I remember to do it in the morning. But yeah, on a consistent basis, maybe to get a little bit more interaction with the proposals and stuff like that, with people voting and whatnot, would be a great thing. Because I just want more foot traffic to the website. Because another like thing that I've been like trying to like game plan and start like marketing consensus is more engagement with like a fun fact. Here, let me do a fun fact for everybody. Actually,
facts.
Let me make sure.
I can touch base on what you're talking about too when you're ready, Coach, or something like that.
Yeah, let me just talk about this real quick. Share screen, window, boom, boom, boom. Sweet. So, fun fact about like like the locking. So for people that are locked, it's like it goes from 30 days all the way up to 10 years. So if somebody was locked only for 90 days on here, with in claiming that amount. So if everybody reads this right here, upon claim your TGC, a portion may be sent to the debt address depending on your locking tier. So or those like individuals that are only doing for 90 days, let's just say this got up to 500,000. Okay. 500,000, or you would receive 250,000, and then 250,000 actually goes to the dead wallet. So the more interaction,
it's actually a 50, you keep 55%.
Oh, 55%.
But you're close. I just for the audience.
For the record, let's keep the record straight. But yeah, but the more interactions, the more funds that are more pTGC, especially for those that are locked less than 5 years. You're kind of helping out burn the supply of pTGC. So that was a little fun fact for everybody.
That's fun. We like burning this token.
Yeah. So the more and more, but TG Zen, are you good now or?
Yeah, we're now in the car and he's being a little quieter. So, yeah, I just kind of, how that math works is difficult to obviously say, because it's all dependent on buys and sells on the base tokens and the sub tokens. And then also, if there's a liquidity web, it depends on what the other tokens in the liquidity web do as well, on how that ratios work. But everything tends to somewhat move together. So I like to just keep the math pretty simple. So like if you have a pairing with Pulse, and let's take away all transactions away from it. If Pulse does a 3x, because LP pools are ratio based, pTGC and UFO will also do a 3x just due to Pulse chain going up 3x with no human interaction or with no movements of money. Obviously, there's always movements of money, but this is why everything moves together. So if Pulse chain does a 10x, the base token also does a 10x. pTGC and UFO will also get tugged up 10x because they're ratio based. What if one pTGC is worth one Pulse? If Pulse goes from 1 penny to 10 pennies, 10 cents, pTGC or UFO will also go from 1 penny to 10 cents, because everything in liquidity pools is completely ratio based. And then how the liquidity pool size grows, if Pulse chain goes up 10x, so does the liquidity pool as well, because they move up in price together.
Yep.
Which is good for us because we make, like, that's kind of where a lot of people don't understand why we want so much liquidity, because a lot of other tokens want lack of liquidity because it makes it easier to pump the chart with lack of liquidity. But most tokens don't make money off of liquidity pools.
Nope.
So if you have a feeless token, if you have a liquidity web, you're not actually making money off of RBots and PulseX routing through your system. It doesn't do anything for the tokens. But if there's a fee put there, then that's when you start making money off of that. The real only benefit is you're kind of diversifying the project between many different tokens on the blockchain instead of being tied to just the gas token. So if you thought a different token was going to do more X's than the gas token, it makes sense to pair part of your liquidity with those other tokens, because then those other tokens are actually going to drag your project up more than Pulse. So like, if we think Pulse is going to 50x and we think Pulse X is going to 100x, and we had equal liquidity pools with those, well, then we would in turn get roughly a 75x, because we would get the average between both of those. If you take away buys and sells out of the mix, obviously, we want people to also be buying our project, so we should get even more X's than the tokens we're connected to, because we're going to get the gains of the tokens we're connected to, while also getting the gains from people coming down from the gas tokens and the main chips to our smaller token. We're just a smaller cup to fill. So that's why we're a leverage play on the ecosystem. Usually the money lands in the the big tokens, and then it trickles down to the successful altcoins. And since we're such a small cup, it doesn't take much for us to do many X's. I always use the example, it's like putting a hose in a pool compared to putting a hose in a bucket. Putting a hose in the bucket, it fills up in 15 seconds. Putting a hose in a pool, it takes a day, 2 days, 3 days. It's the same amount of volume coming out of the hose, same amount of buy pressure, but we're a small cup. We're a small bucket compared to Pulse Chain is the pool. It's the same amount of money coming in, but it just takes a lot more to fill it up and get those X's.
Well, it's like to add to that is a lot of people are talking about what are we talking about? Like the amount of PGC.
Oh, sorry.
But it was a lot of people like talking about like the amount of liquidity that is correlated with the hex LPs. Like there's like, oh, there's only so much hex LPs out in the open market, and this is once it gets to like that price action and the supply shock comes into play, it can really help out the pump, kind of like doing the supply shock contrary. But at the same time, looking at pTGC and the Pulse liquidity pool, currently right now, there is $168,000 worth of pTGC in that liquidity pool. So that's not really that much. And honestly, it would take one whale that wanted to DCA into pTGC of like $50,000 to $100,000 to move the price. Plus, you have to take into account the buys and burns, and not just one, but during that duration of time, somebody taking out that much or pTGC off the market, it would just fly. So I just wanted to add that there's not that much pTGC in the open market in the dollar value right now. Let's see. Actually, just asking about a single LP pool in general. For example, where a token is paired to USDC, not about the liquidity web stuff, as I know that is super complex. Just in general crypto question. So if you, let's say you had $5,000 worth of, or $5,000 of, let's just say pTGC, and then you had $5,000 of USDC. Let's just say you added to that right now with pTGC. So if pTGC went up a 3x, that liquidity pool would go up to $30,000. But instead of having $15,000 of the same number of pTGC, that value of your pTGC would be $15,000. But as permanent loss comes into play, it's actually, since USDC is a dollar, it's not going to go up go up and down value. So actually, the dollar amount of value is going to be going into USDC. So I think if I do my math correctly, you would probably have $15,000 of USDC, which you started with only $5,000, and it would go into that USDC pair. I think that answers that question. Xander Duck.
Well,
Xander?
maybe he's talking about, and I could be wrong here, about X's to the base token. So like if you had a liquidity pool with $20,000 and that liquidity pool goes to, and you turn it to $40,000 because it buys, then the token will do a 2x. So if there's a 1x on the liquidity pool, there's a 2x in token price. If there's a 2x in liquidity pool, there's a 4x in token price. If there's an 8x in liquidity pool, I think that's how it works. Richard Hart actually has a tweet about it, and it's always a double. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's why the smaller liquidity pool, it's easier to get X's because less money has to be invested into the protocol. There's negatives to that as far as like we go. You don't make money off of arbitrage bots if you have small liquidity pools. The second bad part about it is usually if there's a small liquidity pool and people are getting a lot of X's, there's usually only 1 or 2 people that actually get those X's, and the other 99% of people just get screwed. So
Okay, so inverse square relationship. Yes, I think that's something about math.
yeah, I forget if it's ×2 or if it's like squared. I think
Yeah,
it might be squared,
it might be.
actually. So, yeah, so if you get a 4x, maybe it's, or if you have 4 times the liquidity, it's probably a 16x. I think that's actually correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so squared.
Funny. Any last? I think we've been going on for about an hour or so right now. But we went through all the data. We went through the DAO. We went through the conversation about like different liquidity pools, stuff like that. Perry, do you want to add anything or say any kind of comments before we end the space?
I think both these tokens are in a buy zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a couple comments about each of them. Is that some people are holding pTGC liquid. That's fine. People, you can do whatever you want to do, but there's very, very little obligation or expense. There's a 1% fee for ending a stake, but you can stake pTGC and earn like twice the amount of reflections.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with holding it liquid. And then, so that's something that excites me about pTGC is you earn reflections, and then staking reflections, and then penalties if you lock it up. And you can lock yours up for 90 days and just leave it there, and it'll still, earn reflections from people earning or ending their locks early. And then my comment about UFO, what excites me about UFO is what I showed you guys earlier, in that if you hold UFO, you earn reflections. But if you pair it with an RH ticker, Hex, EHEX, Pulse, PulseX, or PDI, did I miss one? I always miss one. Inc. Then you can earn basically 3 times the amount of yield in Pulse.
Well, don't forget the V2 fees that you get as well, that you might need to add to the spreadsheet when providing liquidity with UFO.
Okay.
Because depending upon like how much you have, and then depending upon like the APR, it can be very, very fortunate. So that's what I would say about that. Just to put some icing on the cake. A little bit.
It's a cake, boy.
It's a big cake. It's gonna be a huge cake. People just don't get it.
It's a party cake.
Like, and like UFO, this is its first cycle too. Like Pulse Chain or PTGC. Well, PTGC
first cycle tokens.
Well, like we already did one cycle with Pulse. Now we're going to be going on the second cycle with pTGC, but we're that much more stronger, that much more of the supply burnt, that much more of the loose hands selling out of the token. And then we also just strengthen our rocket ship with rocket fuel with UFO. And then UFO, it's just first cycle. So like when Pulse does a 5X, look at UFO to do the same kind of thing that pTGC did as well. And especially if people understands kind of like how just, I don't know, every single day I talk about it. I just ramble on about liquidity pools. What's the only thing that matters in crypto or in life or in the fiat dollars? Supply, speculation, liquidity. Supply, speculation, liquidity. So,
What kind of X's did did Ethereum do its first cycle?
Well, Ethereum did a 13,000% or 15,000%.
Is that 150x or 1500x?
That's a 15,000 or X.
First cycle?
No, I don't think it was the first cycle, but going into so 7 years, maybe I shouldn't. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Let's do Cardano or AVAX. Cardano did a what was it, 500x? They did 500x the second cycle. AVAX. Gosh, I need to look back. Hold on.
What I'm getting at is that I think I was on the first DGen roundtable or roundtable, pTGC roundtable, and I think I said that RH is not going to be happy with less than 100x for Pulse, and I'm rethinking that. Depending on what Ethereum did, I think he's going to want to beat the pants off of Ethereum. Richard Hart has an ego. He holds a ton of Ethereum, and he can pump the price of his own token. And I'm thinking it's going to be more than 100x this cycle. And what that's going to do for pTGC and UFO is, I think, it's going to surprise everybody.
Yeah. And the cool thing, while we wait, we just get paid. We can DCA into any tokens that we want. If we want more PX, we have the opportunity. Our miner keeps on printing us more pTGC that we can compound. We can get more PX. We can get more PulseX. We can get more Ink. We can get more Teddy, PDI, anything that you want. That's the kind of cool thing about pTGC. So hopefully everybody's doing that, because at the end of the day, pTGC also likes volume. So, and if we can help out people, fortunately, to just live off of passive income coming from pTGC, let's go from 6,000 holders to 20,000 holders. So
it'll happen with green candles.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. TG Zen, do you want any last words? Do you want to say anything?
I think that taps it all. The only thing I guess I'll point out with that last idea of, you could obviously use your rewards that you get in pTGC and UFO to go not only stay in the ecosystem, but instead of hurting the ecosystem by big sells, if you're looking for a way to slowly not DCA out but get your initial out or something like that, you can always go that route by taking your rewards and selling them into other tokens. But I will point out, anyone who's done that for the last, since pTGC and UFO came out, is actually at a loss at going into the blue chips of Pulse Chain, just because pTGC and UFO have continued to outperform the blue chips of Pulse Chain, just due to them being such a smaller token with, I'm not going to say more control, but as a small community, we're able to utilize what we have built behind the token to continue for the price to go up, which is, for me, it helps me sleep at night, knowing that this machine is always working, making me more passive income. Not only making me more passive income, but it has mechanics to continue pushing the price up against the blockchain it's built on top of.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, Solana is up 17,000% right now from its beginning. And that's its second cycle. So, Pulse Chain is going to be exciting to watch. It's going to be exciting. Well, with that, everybody, thank you for coming in Sunday Alien UFO Forum, episode number 3 here on Pulse Chain. We're going to be doing this once a week. If you are a community member and wants to come up and be in part of the panel just to talk, I I was actually had 5 people going to be coming on to the call today, but last minute they actually said they couldn't make it. But at the end of the day, what's the phrase in like drama? The show must still go on, no matter what. The opportunities in pTGC will never stop running. Ultimately, going on forever here on Pulse Chain. So, Barry Banana, thank you for showing up, coming on, bringing in great insight, the data, the facts from the blockchain. Was
My
very
pleasure.
and I really appreciate you doing all that. I wish I started doing that, but I realize I'm not very good at Excel, but I'm actually growing and learning every single day. So thank you for that. So
You're welcome.
with that being said, everybody have a beautiful rest of your Sunday, and I'll personally see you guys tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6:30 in the morning, Pacific time, the best Pulse Chain talk, stream, comedy, TA,
Comedy.
whatever you want to call me. TGZen, see you later. Have fun.
Goodbye,
All right.
everyone.